always love a guest that I share a name with. We love it. AJ Thomas, welcome to the podcast.
Hello, hello.
Well, welcome. So, for my audience out there who may not be familiar, tell us who you are and what you do best.
Awesome. Well, my name is AJ Thomas. I am the founder of Good Trouble Ventures. We invest at the intersection of entertainment and technology and the cross section of what happens with creatives and the landscape of what's changing in entertainment and media. And I'm also the CEO of a firm called the Troublemaker Lab, which is a founder and a team accelerator.
I love that name. Troublemakers. How do you define what a troublemaker is?
Oh man, a troublemaker is anybody that is working on the good of everyone else, for everyone else, to create massive impact in whatever it is they're doing.
So a non-selfish troublemaker.
Non-selfish good troublemaker.
An altruistic troublemaker in some regards. Well, tell us a little bit about your background. How did you fall into this? Because first of all, I could look at you and tell that you enjoy what you do. You're on a mission, you have a purpose, but tell us a little bit about that journey.
Yeah, sure. Well, I mean, I like to say I work at the intersection of talent, culture, and teams. And what's really great there is I have the opportunity to really blend all of that alchemy to birth really amazing products in the world, right? And so I also like to say, if you've seen my background, you'd be like, you've done lots of things.
So if you were going to draw it out, it would just...
Yeah, I call myself a professional dancer. A professional dancer in the sense of I've had many different pivots. So from sales to operations to pure recruiting to product management to talent to eventually a CHRO role, internal communications, innovation and rapid evaluation, and now as an investor and a CEO. So
it's so interesting because I've been having this kind of epiphany now, and because I heard the concept, the idea of a portfolio career.
Absolutely.
When we talk about portfolio career, it's like you have a few different things that you're doing. They all come together. There's that crossover in the Venn diagram, but what it also led me was a second layer of thought there that you and I would not be doing what we do if we didn't have all these different steps of their career.
Absolutely.
The good, the bad, the ugly.
All of it.
Because you learn from those lessons the things that you don't want to do. So let's talk about the current venture. I want to dig in a little bit.
Sure.
Who do you cause good trouble for?
Yeah, so I mean, I'll tell you a little bit about the thesis of our fund, right?
Please.
And so what we're investing in really is, if you look at the two most powerful levers that shift culture and provide economic opportunity, it lies within the intersection of entertainment and technology. And I look at that as like signals for decision making, what the market is looking at as saying as trends and things that are relevant to how humanity is evolving. Right? And so what's really interesting about the trouble that we're making is that we're bringing it back to ownership for creatives who create that kind of work.
Old school trouble.
Old school trouble. I mean, I'm also a creative myself. So back in the day.
You're a singer, you're a writer?
I'm a singer, I'm a writer. I was, fun fact, I was signed to a record label when I was 15 years old.
I knew that. It's in my notes. I was going to get there. You just put my spot up.
Yes. Absolutely.
We just got disrupted.
We totally did.
I'm a disruptor. You're a disruptor.
Yes.
I kind of think people have been bullshitting around this buzzword a little bit and overkilling the word disruptor. But how do you define and put disrupting into action, AJ?
Yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, you just disrupted that whole question. For me, I think disruption is about, the price of admission for disruption is true and authentic curiosity. You really have to be curious about the problem that you're solving so that you can be in the most optimum position to create impact and disruption in that space, right? You can't just go in and kind of blow everything up without having the contextual understanding of what you can bend, break, and honor about that thing.
I like how you just said that. How you could bend, break, and honor about the thing. I mean, rules are meant to be broken.
Absolutely.
Bent a little bit, color outside the lines. Yeah. That's where the magic happens, right? So tell us a little bit. What are you working on right now? Like, what are you working on? What's exciting right now? What's get those creative juices flowing for you?
Yeah. For me, it's actually being able to discover new technologies within the creative and entertainment space.
Okay.
I mean,
we're gonna have to talk about AI.
No, I mean, it's not so much that. It's about like the ability of people to be able to realize that they have their own agency to create something and that they don't have to always kind of piggyback on whatever was already there before, right? And so some of the things that's lighting me up is working with founders that are having this aha to worlds they don't have access to. And I think about like the technology industry or the technology space in general, where I have spent like 23 plus years of my career, they don't often have the ability to access the ecosystem of that entertainment and creative side.
Why not?
Well, I think it's because in the corporate world, you're bound to OKRs and features and roadmaps and all of
Rules.
these things. And I think what we crave most in that technology space is the ability to have innovation,
Of course.
ability to be creative in what we are doing. But we're seeing it in creativity in a box versus creativity unbounded, where creatives don't have much access to what makes a tech infrastructure actually tick. And so what's exciting for me is, how do you actually get both of those words to co-create, not just collaborate on something, but to co-create something from a blank page point of view?
I dig that answer. Right now, what type of creators are you attracted to? Or is it, let me reframe that. What are those DNA characteristics of the founders that you want to work with?
Yeah, infinitely curious. I think one of our troublemaker mindsets is the ability to dream big and stay ambitious. That's a big thing for us.
Wait, we're going to put a graphic up right here. Ambitious. The word of the day is ambitious. Unpack, please, AJ. I love that word.
Ambitious is a portmanteau for humble and ambitious at the same time. I think some folks struggle with imposter syndrome. And by the way, as my good friend Alex Nemo Hans always says, only the imposters do not have the syndrome. Only the imposters are the ones who do not have the syndrome. Shout out to you, Alex. And I would say this ambitious thing is, you can be able to be as right as you think you are is also as wrong as you think you can be. Always be opening to learn, right?
Is it weird to say that I don't have imposter syndrome because I feel like I'm in the right place where I need to be right now?
Well, I think part of what...
I'm always growing and need. I've a long way to go. I'm where I need to be right now.
Well, I think folks can define what imposter means for them, right? And I think if you're not present and curious, you could fall into the trap that I don't belong here. At the end of the day, feeling like an imposter is a feeling of not belonging. And what I would say, the key to belonging is that you belong to yourself first, because you show up in any room and you're already where you're supposed to be.
The door's open.
That's it.
Now it's up to you to walk in and make a presence.
That's it.
How do you work with founders too of, different, we talk about a world right now of neurodiversity and showing up and everything, because there's so many founders that are, whether they be neurodiverse or whether they be introverted, and guess what? You have to pitch, you have to sell, you have to be present there. How do you coach them utilizing your entertainment and creative background to be their best self for the mission of what they need to do in that moment?
Oh man, some of this is also like just basics of, it's like theater almost, right? Like vocal variety.
I am a founder.
No musical theater. But I mean, like, so here's one of the things, right?
Founding the Broadway show.
Right.
Founders, the Broadway.
Well, I mean, it's the ability to know your story enough that you don't have to put words to it. So for example, so if you have a way in which you're telling your story and there's arcs to your story, I'm going to ask you to count to 12. And you're going to deliver some sort of vocal variety around where you want your inflections to the story. So sometimes when someone's telling a story, it's all a big monotone. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. But then, like, when I talk to founders, I'm like, really feel your story, but don't use words, use numbers. So you could be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7,
9,
8, 9, 10. Right? Like, there's ways in which you can kind of feel.
I like that. This is an actual
it.
tactical. We are getting into that here. And there's something, I mean, I've done so many of these interviews with leaders like yourself, and there's a common thread that they look for, who they're attracted to. It's people that could figure it out. How did you do that? And that always ties back to the theme of natural curiosity.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like attracts like, because if you're curious, you're always going to be searching for why and how and to do better. Give us some alpha here. What are you working on now that's really exciting?
What am I working on now?
Technology-wise.
Technology-wise, I think I'm working on this ability to look at, yes, we're going to talk about AI a little bit, this ability to take a look at old works of creativity and refactor that into new works of creativity that you wouldn't even imagine could exist right now. So we're working with like a vocal artist who, you know, maybe 20 years ago sounded very different. Now is able to sing a song in their current voice but then also be able to mold some of the old factors of their voice when they were, at the height of their career.
Why
and
not?
then blend that into their own unique vocal font, and then be able to actually sing and create that kind of music that then they now are able to own. Versus these institutions that own their masters and their publishing rights. I mean, like, that's very unique technology that I think is really amazing. That can be transformational for folks that may feel like, I'm like past my prime.
It's reinvention, and that's what it's all about. Like, you have the skill, you have the talent, no one's putting you out to pasture.
Yeah.
How do we make something all new again? How do we incorporate the technology there?
Yeah.
Before we wrap up here, I got to talk about, you co-wrote a book with your daughter.
I did.
Tell us about that. What was the experience like? What's the book? How old was she when you wrote it?
So she was 9 years old, and then by the time we released it was on her 10th birthday. So that was in 2021 when we released the book. We were actually on a train ride. We go on a mother-daughter trip every 4 years. We call it our E4Y, every 4-year trip. And what was really great about this trip was she was like, Mommy, I think I want to write a book. And I was like, okay. And she was like, well, how hard can it be? And I'm not the kind of person that you say, how hard could it be? Because I'm going to be like, oh, let's see. Let's actually see. It was really hard. We didn't go through a publisher. We decided to self-publish because we wanted to retain the creative rights around the book. And it was just a wonderful project for us to work on. We didn't set out really to write the book. We set out to write a really great story about courage. And in its own thing, we found our own courage to actually birth the thing.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, it became an award-winning children's book, a Moonbeam Children's Book Award, and an Independent Publishers Book Award winning book. And it's raised over $20,000 for the World Literacy Foundation.
What's the name of the book?
Courage Takes Flight.
What did you learn about your relationship with your daughter through this process that maybe you weren't aware of beforehand?
I think there's a lot of wonder in my daughter's eyes that I wasn't first. I was aware that it was there was this magic there, but when you're really seeing them sparking an idea for the first time, the thing that I would say is that we're so focused in this tech forward future, thinking about what is the future, developing new technologies, etc. I think if we really want to work on the future, we have to be able to work with the future. That's what I learned with that experience.
AJ, I want to thank you so much for joining us here on the podcast. But before we do that, one word for yourself that you're manifesting for 2025.
One word for myself that I'm manifesting. Okay. Can it be 2 words?
For you, okay.
Okay. Infinite possibilities.
Infinite possibilities. That is a good one. Everyone out there, AJ Thomas here on the podcast. Where can folks find you? Where can they connect? Where can they learn more?
So you can find me on Instagram at HelloAJ AJ Thomas with the lightning bolt on LinkedIn, and goodtroubleventures.vc.
AJ Thomas, everybody. Thank you.
Thanks, Paul.
Steve Hunt, we have an actual scientist on the show today. But not like, you're not like a chemistry scientist. You're a hiring scientist. You're a hirist.
I'm a hirist.
Are you a hirist, Steve Hunt?
I'm an Well, I have been a chief scientist or assessment scientist, but technically I'm an industrial organizational psychologist, which I joke is most psychologists care a lot about people. We care a lot about what people produce.
Interesting.
But it's the science of work. I kind of make that sort of.
How did you choose this profession?
I started out as a computer programmer. My undergrad degree is applied mathematics. I wasn't a very good computer programmer, but I was fascinated.
You knew your weakness early.
Yeah, and I worked with an IO psychologist, and I it's a long story, but part of it is I encountered really incompetent management. I was like, surely there's a better way to manage people. And then I learned about this field, and I got my PhD, and I focused my career is really focused, probably because of my computer science background, on how to use technology to create more effective work environments. And I've built assessments, like actually in 2005, I was building machine learning assessments.
Yeah, guys, first of all, this has been around for a while. AI is not a new thing.
Yeah.
I mean, like machine learning, like keep me straight here, late 40s, 50s, 60s, military, like now we're in quantum. This stuff's been around, folks, but the consumer-facing side, when you look at ChatGPT, that's a consumer. That's what people think about and see now.
What's changed is the computer speed, and there was a session this morning, but yeah, just a little thing that probably influenced my scientist too. My father actually was a cognitive psychologist who wrote one of the very first books on artificial intelligence in 1975.
We have the proof. We have the time capsule. Tell us a little bit about who you work for and what that day-to-day looks like for you right now.
So
before we get deep.
Get deep. Okay, so for quite a while, I was at SAP. I was the chief expert for working technology there. I was with SuccessFactors, where I worked with just lots of different customers on using technology to create better work environments. Got across a lot of areas. Left about a year ago for a variety of reasons, and since then I've been doing a lot of fractional work. And one of the companies I'm super excited about that brought us together is CrossCheck, which is a company that makes quality. Well, they make a couple staffing solutions, but the one that I'm focused on is quality of hire technology.
So we're going to put a pin in quality of hire because we're going to go deep into that for a minute here. But you've been around this industry for a long time, and you have a large enough sample set to see certain trends and things going in certain directions. What is one trend, the positive trend that you see that's irrespective of economy, culture, politics, in a good direction? What are we doing better as an industry?
Well, one, and I wrote a book called Talent Tectonics that is based on my experience working with literally thousands of companies. I added it up once. I've talked
Lots of data points.
Lots of data points. And it's a look at how work is being changed by digitalization and demographics. Sort of like talent tectonic shifts are like, underlying shifts in not just work, society.
That's the right wording for what it is. It's tectonic shift.
With digitalization, it's changing the nature of work such that what we need people to do for work is very different from what they used to do. The purpose of work 200 years ago, the purpose of work was to grow and distribute food so we didn't starve to death.
Right. It was very function-based.
Function. Then it was the purpose of work was, and this gets to the answer of your question, but it's why it's happening. It's not just what's happening,
Yeah, let's dig into
but why it's happening. Then you had the Industrial Revolution, where the purpose of work was to make things to make us comfortable, cars, clothes. Mm-hmm. But now, and this has been happening for over 50 years, the purpose of work is knowledge and service jobs. Where your job is basically to solve people's problems or make people feel good about what you're providing them. But their expectations are changing, the problems are changing. So we need people to be creative and collaborative. You can't be creative, collaborative, and caring if you're miserable and exploited.
You're being your best self. You're not being the most productive. You're not being what they hired you for. You're not following your passion.
Exactly.
You're not optimized.
You're not optimized. And it gets into anyone who says work was better 50 years ago didn't work 50 years ago. Work physically ground us into the ground. Work is
like the 9 to 5, the 40, 50 hour work week.
In and repetitive.
Blame Henry Ford. We blame Henry Ford.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It just was repetitive. So work now, it's physically much easier, but it's psychologically more difficult. But because of that, companies have invested so much more into giving us more support, to make work more meaningful. It doesn't always feel that way because the world's changing so fast, but work is so much more meaningful. The opportunities are so greater. It's so easy to change jobs.
And pivot. I mean, and you look at from a data point perspective of people's careers. It used to be 20 years to the same organization, right? And now people pivot, they linear, they go, in all these different directions, and it's mainstream. And it also goes along the lines of when people say job, we're going to get back to quality hire.
Yeah.
When people talk about job hopping, it's a function of pandemic, the economy. But I also think people are looking to change and try things and do different things.
It's about growth. It's about growth. Nobody wants to do the same thing over and over and over again it's not good to do the same thing repetitively. And so when I look at this, people sometimes talk about generational differences, which...
What's a factor?
Certainly your lived experiences changes your social values and expectations on technology, but the ability for people to change jobs. One interesting fact, I'm a member of Gen X. Gen X changed jobs more than the millennials did when they were in their 20s.
We're in the same generation?
Yeah. So it's the labor market, but the other thing is now it's so easy to change jobs.
Technology has made it easy because it used to be you would have to physically mail or fax your resume. You would remember when people used to talk on the phone?
Yeah.
Remember back in the day when people used to talk on the phone?
Well, and to find a job, right, was really hard. So there's all this technology that makes it much easier for people to have more control over their careers. Now, I always say that the challenges that we're facing is that work is becoming very psychologically hard, the stressful, the changes of all that. So I'm not saying it's all wine and roses.
No.
But the ability for people to control their careers now is so much higher than it used to be.
On the flip side of that, do you think that we actually have less control over the stability?
Well, that's kind of the turnoff.
Right. My parents are New York City Board of Ed teachers.
Yeah.
They had stability. Once you got tenure, you were in, unless you, I'm not even going to say it, did something very egregious.
Yeah.
Right? But that was your career.
And that's
And
and
you have
you're
the
hitting
pension
to a
security.
real issue because, and I get into this in this book, Talent Tectonics, dives really deep into this. We need people to be adaptable. That's the world. We're really hiring people for when things aren't routine. It's like, oh, deal with this customer problem, deal with this machine broke, deal with this market shift. And people are really good at being adaptable if they have the right psychological conditions. I mean, the ability to adapt to changing environments is the innate competitive advantage of humans as a species. It's called learning.
It's called learning. We learn.
We learn. But
Sort of the robots.
well, they do, but they don't learn the way we do.
Hmm.
And so getting back to your point is when we have the right psychological conditions where what we're doing is meaningful to us, we feel supported and valued, we feel confident we have the tools, change is really exhilarating. It's stressful, but it's like a positive stress of learning. And you think about in your own career, probably some of the most enjoyable
There's positive
times.
stress.
Well, I will give you an example. In your own career, probably some of the most enjoyable times in your own career were times of considerable change. New projects,
But
new
they were usually
assignments.
predicated by something out of my control or an
Yeah.
X factor, something. But then the rewarding part is the fact that you overcame them and you thrived on the other side of it.
And you were working with people that were supporting you. And so the challenge in organizations, and I think you're hitting that, the stability is that people don't work well if they don't feel valued. And the problem is that we have a world where companies employ people because they need them, not because they want them.
Need them, not because they want them. So we pause talking about quality of hire. And
Yeah.
quality. I mean, there's so many metrics when it comes to hiring. The one that has to go, which is the worst one in my opinion, is time to fill because there's too many X factors there. Now, open to hire is important because that really tells you, hey, listen, why the hell aren't we filling this role? What is wrong? And you can
Right.
look at it. Quality of hire. What are the elements? And we're talking broad stroke because each job, each industry,
Yeah.
each vertical is different. But let's break down quality of hire. What is it and what isn't? What isn't it?
Okay. Well, first of all, quality of hire is not a new concept, but it's historically been very hard to measure. What quality of hire is really about is it's the value that an employee contributes to the company after they've been put in a new role. And it can be internal hires too. It's moving around. And when I talk about quality of hire, I always start by using an analogy because it's not about evaluating the employee. That's part of it. But there's a fable about a grandmother and a grandchild are walking through a field and they come across a turtle on a fence post. And the grandchild goes, "Look at that stupid turtle. It's going to fall off the fence post." And the grandmother says, "If you see a turtle on a fence post, someone put it there. Do not blame that poor turtle for its
The
predicament."
turtles can't jump.
Blame the cruel fool who put the turtle on the
Not
fence
the
post.
turtle's fault.
Yeah, that's quality of hire. If an employee fails
Ah.
in the first year, yeah, I'm not saying the employee doesn't have any responsibility, but don't blame the employee. It has to do with how you sourced them, how the
The
job
onboarding.
design, the onboarding. And so the challenge of quality of hire is it's the most important decision you ever make about someone is the decision to hire them.
But at what point do you evaluate the quality of hire where you're letting someone onboard properly, they're having enough time to ramp up into the organization, and then how do you factor in the quality of employee into the
This
quality
is
of
when
hire?
you specialized technology for it.
And what is
because-
that specialized technology?
Well, now let me define because in psychology, going back to being a scientist, there's something called the criterion problem in industrial organizational psychology, which is all of these AI tools that are being built now, learning tools, they're all designed to predict what people do after they're hired. But 99% of them are all pre-hire data going back to your time to fill, matching. Right. We don't hire people to have job descriptions that match resumes. We hire them for what after they're doing after they're hired.
Because isn't hiring just an educated guess and a gamble?
No, there's a real science to it. I mean, going back, I've built assessments. People are depressingly predictable.
I am depressingly predictable.
We are all depressingly predictable.
Hopefully I'm entertainingly predictable.
Right. But I think if I take this, when you look at quality of hire, the first thing is it's a very complicated concept. It's like if I asked you, did you have a good meal last night? You could probably answer pretty quickly yes or no.
Yes.
But if then asked why, you might go, well, the food was good, the service was terrible, the price. There's all these complex factors that go into it. And they're also, it's like, it doesn't matter how good the food was, if the service was terrible, there's thresholds. So you look at quality of hire, it's really 4 different things. It's 1, tenure and how long do they stick around. But we don't hire people just to stick around. Then it's performance, which is like enroll. Do they meet, like, do they show up to work on time?
Right.
Do they do basic work?
Exceeding, where are they performing?
But then you get to exceeding, which is different. What I call extra role performance. Because the reason you treat them differently is in some jobs, the things that drive extra role performance actually drive turnover. High need for achievement, high desire. So do you want a stable employee that lasts a long time, and it's going to vary based on the job?
Right, and where expectations set with that employee before you hired them that this is going to be a high demand role, and do they have the traits and experience to deliver at that level?
Exactly. So you have, and then the 4th one is self-development. Do they want to move to other roles? So if you look at these 4 things, all of them matter, but they matter differently in different jobs. Just like when you go to a restaurant, sometimes you want cheap, sometimes you want great service, right? And so what this data exists in companies, but it's all over the place. I don't want to say
How do we bring it all together? How do we package it up?
Yeah, how you put it. Well, one, I say quality hire is not asking managers if this is a good hire. That's like a tiny, tiny, tiny segment of it.
And yes, you could quantify it for certain roles. It's easy. In a sales role, this person is binary. Selling or not selling.
Yeah.
But then there's roles where it's subjective, and what are the data points that you're using to say, is this a good hire?
And even in sales, it's going to be different because it's like, do they support their teammates or not? There's other things you might look at. But so the technology does is it pulls data in from all sorts of different things. It's CRM, ATS, all kinds of places. And then it interprets it. It allows you to control it based on the job, have different thresholds, simplify it so you can feed it back to recruiters and hiring managers. But also it gives you tremendous insight into what's affecting it. So like we've had companies that have found that they were using a selection test that negatively predicted performance. We're training, like certain managers should never be allowed to onboard anyone. That the way you've designed your schedule, of course they're quitting. Once you have this data, you can use it in a zillion different ways, but it's having the data that is so key.
How are you personally utilizing I can only imagine you're just like, fuck yes, AI is great for what I do, right? Like I can only imagine when you're working with such heavy data sets, the ability to have tools with machine learning at the level that we're at right now and where it's going, the exponential rate of improvement right now, like how do you keep this rocket ship straight?
Well, the AI is really exciting because it gives the machine learning to train on what we actually care about. Again, going back to I used to build machine learning. In 2005, I built machine learning technology for high volume early staffing. And the biggest challenge we have is one, the computers were so slow. But the other one is companies didn't measure post-hire criteria. But when we got it, we learned fascinating things about, what you thought was really important for sales actually wasn't. It was this other thing you should be hiring.
Wasn't that only half the equation? Like if you're only hiring up to the hire, like you need the post-hire data.
Right, that's what we had. We would get that. When we got that post-hire data, it was amazing what you could learn, but companies historically haven't got it. So I think the challenge with quality of hire is, it's not a new challenge, but people almost in recruiting gave up on it. But we've reached a point, largely because of cloud technology and all those other things, that we can start really measuring it. And I'm really excited about it because not just for companies, nothing good comes from putting a person into a job that they're unwilling, unable, or don't want to perform.
If you're not setting somebody up for success, everyone is going to fail.
Yeah, and
you wasted time and money, and overall, the company is losing profit. Let's call it what it is.
And it forces recruiters to up their game in a positive way, onboarding up their game,
Shenanigans.
and job design.
Yeah.
To say, look, if you're designing jobs that people don't want to do, it becomes apparent.
Maybe you have to rethink your whole strategy there.
Yeah.
So let's leave us with
Right.
what's been the biggest aha moment for you, this mind-blowing moment of discovery, something maybe was a hypothesis that you had that was proven right or wrong, or right, you look to the stars or that green chandelier up there that's been distracting me for the last 3 days. What is that aha moment for you that you're excited about right now?
Right now, boy, I've got to think about this for a second.
Yeah.
I can tell you aha moments in my career.
Please give us a couple.
Well, like an aha moment in my career, like talent management, evaluation of whether it's hiring or performance management, realizing it is a subjective social judgment.
I mean,
measures should influence it, but as soon as you accept the fact that if the CEO thinks somebody is a superstar, they're a superstar.
yeah, I guess Steve's a superstar
Even
because
if
Bob and Mary said so.
Yeah, even if you know you can try to argue it, I think so. That was one real reframing that there is a lot of inherent social judgment in the world of talent management, and we should embrace and shape that, but don't try to just analyze it away. But I think the stuff that I'm really excited about, the way my whole focus is on using technology to improve work, the explosion of creativity, like in this conference. Companies, I use Greenhouse as an example.
Well, let's please use Greenhouse as an
Yes.
example.
We need more alternative tools for candidate management, and so many of the stuff that companies use are just legacy artifact solutions that are just sort of stuck around because they've always had it.
It's time for change. It's time for
and it's
disruption.
happening. You look in this conference, there's so much great stuff, and I would encourage anyone in the field. Our understanding of technology enables and constrains our imagination of how we can work. If you haven't changed your recruiting processes or talent management processes in the last 5 years, you don't realize what's possible.
Exactly. What is possible? Steve, I want to thank you so much for joining us here on the podcast. Where can folks find you? Where can they connect? Where can they learn more?
Best place is probably LinkedIn, Stephen T. Hunt, PhD. That's my website as well. Our Talent Tectonics is the book that I wrote. And
We're gonna
coming
link
out
it all
soon, The Quality of Hire, the book on quality of hire with Mike Fitzsimmons is coming out in 2 weeks.
The quintessential guide to quality of hire.
It is a fascinating tale of quality
It
of
is.
hire.
Steve Hunt on the podcast. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Awesome. We are back with Audrey Ferrier, and we had a fun night last night.
Yes.
We will leave
yes.
out some of the details. Some of them. We had a very nice time, and thank you to Evan White for connecting us. We had a great dinner last night at the Eiffel Tower restaurant in Las Vegas, not at Paris, but in the Paris Hotel, Las Vegas.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and the restaurant was up high. You could see the whole strip. It was really nice.
It was nice, and
Yeah.
we had a nice dinner. We had lots of laughs. It was fun and everything. And then we started talking about what we all do. And we were going around the horn here, and the work that you do, we'll get into a second, is morbid. But morbid doesn't mean that it's not something, because that is part of life. It's an unavoidable part of life, death and taxes, and that's what it's all about. So I would love for you to share the story
Yes.
of what you created and why.
Thank you. And thank you for having me on here. I really appreciate it. I used to be an investor. I know sometimes they're not so popular outside of investing circles, but so I'll admit it. But
Shame.
But
No.
yeah, when I was there, my mom passed away, and we expected her to pass away. So she had a will, but we didn't think of all the extra things like passwords and where accounts are and what her life insurance provider is. I didn't know, because you're so preoccupied with actually losing your parent.
Grieving and going through the
Yeah.
process.
And trying to stay, up to date on your career, do your work, not have it really impact everything else in your life when your personal life is really in chaos. And so I didn't realize how much would come at me after her death. And there's actually stats, it takes 400 hours to settle someone's estate and affairs. And you have to do that during the workday. And so
Right, you're trying to grieve and have it 3 days. Some companies give you 3 days, 3 days.
Yeah. I mean, my employer was wonderful, and they gave you more time off. But I mean, even that is just time to grieve. And then, a lot of people think that then everything goes back to normal, but you're calling life insurance providers and you're trying to get into their Facebook and
Their credit cards. And how do
Yes.
you...
So many people are harassed by credit cards and they think they have to pay them. And so, yeah, there just needs to be some guide through this process. So that was how Elaine started.
How soon after your mother's passing did you decide to create this product and company?
I wrestled with it for a while because I was like, do I want to take this on? It's a tough subject. It was kind of traumatic going through
Of
it.
course.
And then do I want to circle back and live in this? And I think, it got to the point where I was like, I have to change this for other people, for other families going through it.
I had a lot of privilege going through it, but I kept thinking, you know, if say I couldn't just pay for something, what would happen? And there needs to
How do you-
be structures. Yeah.
So, because we don't, and we were talking about this at dinner last night too. My parents have and my brother and I joke about it, but it's not the death folder. You know, I said that
Yes.
last night, and it's literally called the death folder. My brother and I have it's like literally like the nuclear codes the president carries around, and it's a folder that I've hidden in my house. It's in like the like the it's almost a comedic
Fireproof.
novelty Ziploc plastic bag, and then in my firebox.
Yes. Yes.
And it's so old school, but I thought about it for a while, and we would make fun of my parents for it, but I'm like, you know what? They're making our lives easier when their time comes. They're like taking the burden off us. So
Yes.
if we can have a product that does that, where we're paying it forward to our next of kin,
Yes.
isn't that like one thing you could take
It's
off
the
of them?
ultimate act of love, I think. You know, if you prepare everything, and it doesn't even have to be, you know, so, you know, at the end of life you put it together. It can be you have a new child and you want to make sure that guardianships
forbid.
are set up. Yeah, there's things happen. And so I think it also gives us a level of comfort if you have that. So we've since expanded from just post-loss support to helping you optimize and digitize these folders, and it's all built on AI, so it's a cool live experience.
What skills did you have that gave you the confidence to say, all right, I've been skill stack it for a little bit here. I'm going to go out and build something for myself.
I have no idea. I
Just
covered
fucking
healthcare
figure,
before.
fuck around and find out.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah. I was like, okay, I can one step at a time, and I try and find people who know things that I don't. So as I
That's what
build
makes
my
you smart.
team,
I mean, that's really what it is.
as I build the team out, like they have different competencies in areas that I know nothing about, but I trust them, and yeah, it's been working really well.
You hire people that are smarter than you in the areas that you don't know how to do, and you build
Yes.
around them, and you trust
Yes.
them. It's called leadership. It's called,
Thank you.
what was that first road bump, that first proverbial punch in the face as a founder when you were building this product? Maybe it was a thesis or a thought you had that just didn't go as you planned.
That's a great question. I think we're still figuring it out. So we went to Y Combinator last year. And then I've been thinking this would be a great benefit for employers. And it's employers, it's a tougher sell than I expected. And I think it's a lot of education. That's actually probably what
Education.
it is. Educating employers and different groups on why this is important. Because the people who have been through it, they get it right away. They're like, yes, we need this, we should bring this in. And the people who haven't been through it are lucky enough not to have been through it. Sometimes they ask why.
So let's talk about how this fits into a corporate benefit policy and the need for it. I mean, I've seen not exact products out there. I've seen similar support factors out there, but you're an analyst by trade. That's your background. When you looked around at, I say maybe the Fortune 500, how many of these Fortune 500 companies even have something like this? Roughly. I mean, if you do a number, I mean, I'd be deeply impressed.
They
but
don't really. So some of them
Why
have
not?
EAPs that refer you out to a lawyer. A lawyer will make your will or will make you your trust, but it will kind of sit in your bedside table collecting dust. It won't send you a notification if it says, oh, did you just have a baby? You should probably update all of these beneficiaries, these guardians. It's not live. And they also don't capture all your assets. And so, yeah, upfront planning, there is this misconception that it already exists. But I think when people experience it, they understand it doesn't. And post-loss, there's nothing. It's one of those things that people don't want to talk about. And they think, okay, it's a week and then you're over it and everything's done. The funeral's done, but that's when it starts.
That is when it starts too. And has this been a hard sell? Has this been a hard sell into companies? What's a I know the value. So
Yeah.
it's a value add, it's a benefit,
Yes.
but it's also a cost to the employer.
Yeah.
How do we get there?
The ROI is there. So we take the estate settlement process down from 400 hours to 50 hours. And that's assuming we don't have anything on the family member that passed away. if we already had information on that family member, it's even shorter. So it's kind of, I think of it kind of like maternity benefits. Like maternity benefits help employees come back to work, minimize stress. And this is the same thing. Like they're both parts of life.
What type of advisors are you surrounding yourself with that are professionals in this space, and what have they taught you from a product standpoint?
So I would say Y Combinator has been amazing there. And that kind of going back to your question about how I tried to figure this out, I was like, where can I go where it's all happening? Where like all the AI is happening, all of the innovation in tech is happening. And so I was like, we have to go to YC or I don't want to build this. And so, yeah, we got in on our first try and they were really supportive. And yeah, I think it's just like learning from that group that they've really helped shape the product.
And where are you at now? How big is the team?
The team is 4 with capacity of 19. So we've partnered with a bunch of care managers that just focus on the space. And so they're helping users go through the process. And we're looking for 2 more engineers. So amazing engineers, if you hear this.
I am a recruiter and we'll talk about this offline. We have a great network of engineers in the space there too. What other, aside from the tactical estate planning and have everything in one place, are there other resources built into the tool for grieving, support groups, the whole gamut of grievance support?
Not yet. So right now we're just partnering with the APs that provide healthcare benefits and we'll refer you out to that. Our mission is really to take all of the admin off your plate so you can do that. But eventually, yeah, I'd love to have communities and meetups and just make it less of a stigmatized topic. Because it is, it's part of life and it's caring for your family. Yeah.
It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen one way or another. What's on the horizon for you? What's the next mountain you're gonna be climbing?
Well, we just launched our new version of the product March 1st, and
That's my birthday.
yeah, happy birthday.
I mean, someone says your birthday on the day. You're like, that's my birthday.
Yeah. Well, it's a good day then. And we're opening a small D2C channel because we put up a sign up page and had people sign up.
Well, that's actually my next question. Like, how do we take it from enterprise to retail?
Yeah. I mean, I would love to be in people's lives ahead of their loss, which is why we were thinking of enterprise. But in the meantime, I mean, there's a lot of people to help because we can see whenever one of our articles on like how to close accounts or what to do if someone passes away is viewed, and it's really frequent. So yeah, I'm curious to see how that goes.
And your mom is Elaine, right?
No, my mom. So the company is incorporated under her name Ildiko, but Elaine is how we're going to market, and it means a ray of light through the clouds. So
You are making her proud.
thank
You are
you.
honoring her. This is what happens in life when there's something stronger, more powerful, a calling that you don't expect it at the time.
Yeah.
You weren't looking for it, but it points you in the right direction. Do you feel like you really found your purpose at this stage of your career in life?
That's a really sweet question. No one's ever asked me that question. I think so. I feel completely differently getting up in the morning now, and knowing that we're going to make a difference here, and just make our little corner of the world a little brighter.
Doesn't it change everything when you're doing something for like the right reason versus working for a corporation, or maybe it's a cool HR tech product, right? But this is gonna actually help people at their lowest point. So I applaud you. I'm gonna be following along,
Thank you.
supporting you guys wherever I can here. Where can folks find you? Where can they connect? Where they can learn more?
Thank you. At elaine.com is our main website, and we have get.elaine.com /the podcast, but we can send you the link so it's easier.
This is awesome. Let's throw another little curveball question in here while we have another minute here. You've had an interesting career at different sides here, and everyone in their career gets career advice, right? You're getting it, you're receiving it. What is that single best piece of career advice that you've ever received that you take action on every day and you pay it forward?
I do love mentors. I think it's like find mentors who are amazing and invest in you, and then try and pay it forward. You know, I have a couple, especially women in investing or women founders, that I try and mentor with the limited wisdom that I have. But it's also,
Don't undersell yourself,
you know,
please.
but you do find like, yeah, older people have reached out to me who are more progressed in their careers, and they've been so helpful. So mentorship is, I know everyone says it, but it really, if you engage in it, it's amazing.
Awesome. This has been a great conversation here. We're going to
Thank
keep it
you.
moving here on the podcast. We're going to link up everything. And are you hanging out tonight for the Timbaland concert?
Yes, it's gonna be great.
Well,
I have high expectations.
I think it's going to be a good one. Our friends over here at Greenhouse have a nice VIP table that we could roll up with.
Yes.
Like I know the pods over there, and
Yes.
that's going to be the secret word for the guest list tonight. We're going to have a good
Okay.
time. We're going to continue the good times from last night. Thank you so much for joining us. It's been a pleasure.
Yes, thank you so much.
Likewise. We are back with a familiar face to the podcast. John Baldino, how you doing, man?
Hi, buddy. How are you? Good to see you.
First time we met was a year ago here at this place. I was filming it over there, and
Really?
we've all come a long way. And I was like, this guy's got something here. It's funny. He's interesting. He's smart. I'm like, there's something I kind of like about him. And started to learn what he did, started to understand the business, started to see this ecosystem of this HR and TA tech world that we live in. And you're someone that I'll fangirl for a second here. I look up to. I see what you're doing. We talk shop.
Yep.
You are I mean, I go back to even the conversation that you, me, and Joel were having for a few minutes at the bar last night. You're very generous with your knowledge and helping us understand the pieces here, because there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
Like if I was going to take that camera and spin it around,
Right.
you have so many different companies here that are at different stages. Most of them are doing the same shit, just skinned a different way.
Yep.
But for folks out there that don't know you, tell us who you are and what you guys do.
So thanks for having me again. I'm John Baldino. I am the president of Humoriso, which is an HR consulting firm. And we work with all kinds of organizations across the country.
And it's also a former male dancer.
I mean, I still dance. But not professionally.
Ain't Chippendales kind of dancing?
No, like club kind of dancing, but you know.
Oh, we're gonna bust this out tonight.
Oh, actually, we might. Actually,
Are you staying for tonight?
I am.
All right.
I want to be the JT sub for some of Timbaland's songs because Timberlake's not going to show up.
What about Nelly Furtado? Think we get some Nelly Furtado? I love me some Nelly Furtado.
You could do for Nelly Furtado.
You don't be.
I mean,
No.
you would be amazing. Or we can get Jackie to do it. Jackie's going to stay.
You could sing?
Yeah, Jackie Clayton can sing.
We're gonna have a good time over
Yes.
there too. So let's use this as a little time capsule. Let's use it.
Yep.
What has changed in this space in the last year? God damn it! Don't say AI.
I'm like doubling down on AI, everyone. It seems like it's the next big thing.
Seems
Honestly,
like they're onto something.
actually, two things come to mind besides that. I think the push for practical HR in HR tech,
What does that mean?
meaning we really have to get better at delivering messaging to HR practitioners that make the technology opportunities we're putting before them mean something. Because most of the people at this point have gotten burned in their companies. The HR folks who brought in a vendor, added a piece of software, and then it doesn't do what it needs to do, or it's not as advanced as they thought. And your CFO, CEO, COO is like, hey, we tried your thing before, right?
Do you think it's victim of shiny object syndrome?
Definitely
Right?
a bit of shiny object. And maybe even,
It's AI tech. You don't actually need it. You just need to fix your shit that's already broken.
well, and you
Without the
actually,
tech.
I mean, I'll make it even worse. You have to actually use what you already have.
It's like if you gave me a brand new Ferrari and I don't know how to drive stick shift, and now the thing just sits in my driveway and depreciating.
But it looks great.
Looks great, and
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell everybody that we have it.
Right. Right.
Right?
Oh, yeah, we're using whatever. And you're like, terrific.
No.
How's that working out for you? Well, you know.
Do you think it's even simpler than that, where we need to get back to the core foundational principles of what human resource and talent acquisition are. It's so they're over relying on the tech to solve problems like volume instead of quality.
Well, there's two answers there.
There's
One,
17 questions in there.
right. HR
Telling the
and
mushroom to kick it
TA,
in.
the problem with HR and TA is, and I'm even going to say for people who are here, there are too many organizations where that's a combined function. And I'm not
I'm
mad,
so happy we're talking about this right now.
but it is a combined function, so that they don't see the difference
Right.
from a specialty standpoint.
When did let's give a little history lesson here.
Yep.
Keep me straight.
Yep.
Back in the day, human resources was all things people.
Yep.
People would fax in their resumes. They would mail first. They would mail them in. Then we went to faxing, and human resources would handle hiring.
Yes.
And then at some point on the timeline, we developed this new department called TA.
Yep.
Now, some folks call TA talent acquisition. I move it towards talent access. I don't like the word acquisition. They don't acquire people.
Yep.
It's something baseball or
Right,
sports,
right.
But we're accessing them to opportunities. And I get it. Some people kind of interweave the two. They take them on the same, but they are different functions.
Well-
how do you differentiate, and what are your thoughts here?
So talent acquisition, talent access, part of the problem with that as well is we've got organizations where that's recruiting.
Or it's called recruiting.
But
I mean, it's what I do for a living. I didn't even call it that.
no, but
Yeah.
But to be fair,
I'm not in HR.
I was just going to say to you though, but to be fair to you, what you know how to do in some ways is more than recruiting. I'm not poo-pooing recruiting, but it is more than that.
Marketing, sales.
Right. That's not the experience that a lot of recruiters have. One of the, again, entry-level roles for some folks is recruiter.
Yeah, they put them in for like talent, like the admin part of it, the scheduling,
Yes.
the early coordination,
But we
early
call them
sourcing.
recruiter.
Yeah, they're not recruiting.
Correct.
Yeah. Recruiting is the act of actually going out and compelling somebody through any communication channel to be interested in your company and draw them in. That
And
is
draw them in.
recruiting, right?
Not phone screens,
No.
right? Or resume review. I'm not mad at those things, but if we call people recruiter and we let them believe that they're a recruiter, that is going to influence the definition of talent access, talent acquisition. That's what we're doing.
Right.
We are morphing the definition, and we shouldn't.
We need to separate. I think it's an industry we need to separate what HR is, but then it kind of boils up to a leadership perspective, right? Like I think in a perfect corporate organization, you have your CHRO,
Yep.
that person responsible for all things people function. That's not recruiting and talent, and then you have your chief talent officer. Right. Talent should be there, and some of the organizations they kind of morph them into the same. But as your point, it's a different skill set, and that trickles down into technology.
But on top of that, if you've got, I've talked to them, there's some organizations represented here. They have no shade, 300, 400, 500 people. Amazing. Love that they have that organization size. And we've allowed the top ranking HR person to be called CHRO at a 300 person company. That's really difficult to set that person up for success long term because they can't CHRO for 300 people the way that a CHRO would do for a 30,000 person company. What are we setting them up for? This is difficult because we've allowed title to become self-esteem oriented.
Oh, we're going there. That's a whole other thing as well, too. When I talk to
Well, I
entrepreneurs,
mean, am I fair or am I unfair?
no, I think it's fair, but let's break it down. Why are they not successful with that title in a 300-person company? Why are there more fail points because of a title? Why should it freaking matter?
No, it shouldn't matter. But what we're doing is the CHRO for the 300 person company now is saying, I'm ready. And they keep applying for the 30,000 person CHRO job and they're not getting the interview. They're like, well, I'm doing it.
No.
We haven't helped people know. When you said to me last night, we were having that conversation and you were saying, oh, you're generous about, honestly, part of it for me feels like it's my responsibility because we're losing the definition of some of these things. I'm happy for you to be a director of HR for a 300 person company. Rock it.
Yeah.
Do the thing. Are you a CHRO? No.
No.
You don't have the budget. You don't have the reach. Why
You don't
would we do
understand
that?
the scope of what it really means.
Right.
I mean, there's also a bigger problem. So when I talk to candidates about this all the time, and listen, at my peak in 2022, I have 13 employees. I never called myself a CEO. Because that's not what I am. I am the president. I was a leader of it.
You
but
are
I purposely,
president.
but I purposely decided to call myself a managing director
Or
because
that,
that closer aligned. I was the director, and I was a And I tried to
100%.
use that as an example. Of course, it's my company. I own the LLC. You know, I'm a sole
Yeah.
proprietor and all that kind of stuff. And I think candidates are kind of shooting themselves in their foot. I know we went completely off course on this,
No,
but candidates are kind of shooting themselves in the foot. And now I found something interesting too. I was a self-fulfilling prophecy because, and I'm going to be very candid about it. Let's open up the book here. During a downturn economy, it's been
Yep.
rough for us independent agency recruiters.
Yep.
So I said, you know what? I'm going to put myself on the job market and I'm going to apply to jobs. I quickly found out that I'm unhireable
And why do you think that?
because whoever is looking at my resume, and it's usually, let's call it what it is, it's a lower level,
Yes.
not recruiter.
Yep,
And what's
yep.
the first thing they see? Business owner. Adam's been owning his own business for 8 years. Why the hell is he looking for a job?
Yeah.
He must have failed, or once the market gets good again, guess what? He'll be out here in 3 months.
Yep.
And that was really messed up.
That's actually very good.
It was really messed up, dude. I am unhireable.
But the problem with that is that so two things. We've got to teach recruiters, the non-recruiter, how do you really look at that resume rather than being told by someone above you, if you see this, and this, get rid of them. But how to ask good questions.
Right? I mean, imagine imagine bringing someone like me into an organization where you're so like, dude, Adam knows what it's like to build a business.
Yeah.
He's learned how to manage people.
Yep.
He understands to see big picture here, organizational standpoint, and not just look at the fact that, it's a real problem. And it's also a much larger problem because it's a volume problem right now. And there's also a lot of great internal recruiters. So why the hell would they pick me?
Yeah. Well, and I think it's twofold. You're not hireable in the way that you describe, but you're very hireable when you come to the table to say, I can actually increase your pipeline because of what I know how to do and how I know how to do it. But I'm not going to go through your traditional channel of non-recruiter recruit.
And I'm going to do things a little
coming
different.
in differently.
And I say the same thing too. Let's bring it back another 10,000 feet too. I've had this conversation. Me and my team have been most effective when we bring in our high-touch, white-glove, talent on demand, we'll call it RPO model.
Yep.
Because we are bringing an agency mindset, because we are actually recruiters into a company where they are more administrators, for lack of a better word.
Yep.
And we're bringing speed. We're bringing skill, not to diminish internal teams, because there are incredible internal teams out there, right? And some of the best recruiters I know are actually internal recruiters.
Absolutely.
But generally speaking, there's sometimes a lack of fire behind it.
Well, I have to tell you something. Fire is a bit of a skill as well. We've done a really good job of trying to tell people to be less than in some things. Don't go forward. It's obnoxious, blah, 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 blah. And then we put them in roles and we're like, now go get them. And they're like, I don't know how to go get them. I've spent 5 years being told not to do that.
So this kind of pivots to this fun part of the conversation. Here's another reason why I think I'm invaluable too. If I came into an organization, and you know me, right? But what if you didn't know me and you're interviewing me and you're like, what do you know? What tools do we see? What tools do you use? You're like, funny you mention that. Like, I'm literally at the pinnacle of knowledge as a media resource, as a recruiter who uses these tools. I could go around here and say, I've used that one, I've used that one, that one. Here's the things I like about it and not. So I'm adding value to myself as a recruiter then. And that's the value you have to bring. So let's talk about what's happening here. High level, what are you seeing? Let's focus on TA, not HR. In the TA tech space in the last 2 years. What are we seeing out there? What are the news headlines here? What are we seeing?
Well, I mean, obviously some of this is in some ways old news, but some of what we're seeing is offboarding some specific responsibilities that were recruiter, talent specialist responsibilities. I'm having something screen my resumes. I'm having something do first tier interviewing, right? That AI bot that's now talking to people. Okay, that's happened over the past couple of years for sure. But the problem with that is, once that happens, now it comes to you as the next layer of the process. If I've not encouraged you or taught you how to ask good questions, think critically, do the sort of piggyback questioning, because you're not practicing it on the front end anymore. You're having something else do it.
Yeah, you're losing the muscle memory.
I am not helping you do your job really well.
No.
So when I look at all the tools that are around here, what I'm asking some of them are, how do you, while you're handling some of these first tier things,
Well, sourcing, screening, and scheduling.
yep, how do you maybe turn around and allow that to become something of a learning lesson to the practitioner that's there? That's a differentiator, in my opinion, for some of these tech companies that really want to find their place.
I mean, but what is that differentiator? I mean, I could literally scan the room right now. They do the same thing as that company. Those two do the same over there. Those two are literally in a Twitter war right over there.
I know.
I'm talking about rippling a deal right there for everybody watching right now.
Just in case. Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
I think, well, we'll talk
By
about
the
that.
way, I was
You think
this
it's been
morning.
The real, the Spygate?
I don't know if it's that. Although this morning I was hoping for like a Jets and Sharks kind of fight right there in the middle.
Huh.
It would be awesome.
Like a dance off? A flash mob.
If
dance.
Mambo starts, we're screwed.
Right. Right, but it's real, folks. There's real drama in the THR tech
yes,
space.
Yes.
All right, man. Listen, John and I can talk for a long time here, but I want to ask you something.
Yep.
What is just pissing you off about this whole space here? I mean, first of all, it's a great vibe here, but like,
It's a great vibe.
I mean, what is it? Is it too much homogeny? Is everyone trying to do the same thing? There's not enough differentiation. Like, what is it?
Me, piss off takes a long while for me to get there. But what I would say is irritating is I have overheard some practitioners who spend good money to come here ask. This questions is my thing. Ask really poor questions of the sponsors that are here. That that would be a really great thing to do is like, I'm going to do a boot camp to come to an HR technology conference. Here are the things that you should be asking of your potential partners.
Why don't we producer note? Why don't we think about that as a content piece? So you can write it up, right?
Yeah.
Like let's do a piece that's evergreen. That's like, here's your 15 minutes before you go to any conference. Watch this video.
Yeah. I mean, I've had people saying, why should we pick you?
Yeah, why you?
And it's like, well, what do you think they're going to say?
Right.
Well, we're really the second best solution. So
Well, we're really the third, but we're gonna call it the second, right? Like, awesome, John. What's exciting you these days? Life. What's going on?
So, I mean, I have to say, there's so much good stuff that's going on, even in a really difficult environment. I mean, obviously, politically, there's some tensions. Economically, there's some tensions. But I think if you're smart about leveraging the tension, there's some really great opportunities from a people standpoint to bring some high quality, awesomely engaged people into your organization. Take the risk.
Take the rest. Take the rest. John Baldino on the podcast. Where can folks find you? Where can they connect? Where can they learn more?
John Baldino HR on LinkedIn or humoriso.com.
Awesome. Pleasure as always, sir.
Great to see you, buddy.
So depending on the order where we kind of shuffle, you get it? Where we shuffle these podcasts when we put them out there into the universe. Either way, this is the last episode that we're recording. It is day 3 of Transform. It's been a gauntlet. But Kyle and I actually met at the poker table the other night, and that was kind of a cool way to get to know each other.
Yeah.
You know, I was playing my
new
poker
and
hand
different.
next to you.
Yeah.
Maybe I told you I didn't know how to play a little bit. Maybe I was bluffing a little bit. But it was a pleasure to connect. And that's really what these events are all about, right?
Yep.
Like actually getting to hang out and know people as a human.
Yeah.
Right? This isn't just Kyle Forrest over at Deloitte over here. But let's do this for the folks that have not played poker with you. Tell us who you are and what you do best.
Yeah, absolutely. Everyone, thrilled to be here. It was thrilled to get to meet you the other night. So Kyle Forrest, there's a couple of hats that I wear. One is as the client service to many large organizations on the West Coast. The second is I'm actually the future of HR leader for Deloitte. So I really spent a lot of time digging in with CHROs and business leaders to think about what does the future of the function look like, not only for the function itself, but for the enterprise at large. Because really, what are organizations trying to do? They're trying to drive business outcomes and human outcomes at the same time, which is something that we explored in our 2024 Human Capital Trends Report, and which we're really excited to dig into with our 2025 Global Human Capital Trends Report.
I have, I won't call it a problem, but I have this kind of, we're lumping everything people under HR when really it's talent recruiting, HR, human resources, benefits over here. Do you roll talent into HR?
So I sit down with a lot of CHROs who have been talking about the evolution of the function at large, right? And what they always emphasize is you need to ground in basics. What is your business strategy? What is the talent strategy you need to enable that? And where certain things sit from a work activity perspective are going to vary by organization. But if you've started with your business strategy and your talent strategy, then you're very clear. How do the functions, inclusive of HR, enable that? Now, you look at the evolution of the function, and what that function knows really well is the external talent market and the internal talent market. And if you bring that powerful set of data together in a way that can be done in very different ways today than it could even 5 or 10 years ago, there's tremendous insights that you can equip the business with to drive powerful outcomes.
Wow. There's a lot to unpack in that one over there. And I mean, there's different functions within that, right?
Yeah.
And they all kind of drive each other here. But when you go to events like this, what are some of the things that you're like, that's pretty cool over there? I like what they're doing from a high level thematic perspective.
Yeah. Adam, I've spent the last year coming to a variety of different HR conferences. I know you've been at many of them, engaging with folks. And what I would say, 2 or 3 things that I've seen that are very exciting. One is people understanding the fact that investing in a tool of technology, AI, right, in and of itself is not going to solve the problem, right? Whether it's for the enterprise at large or for a specific function like talent or benefits. And one of the themes that we explored in this year's Trends Report is called Wide Tech, right? How do you actually invest in the technology to drive a business outcome in the right way? And so what I've seen very powerfully is leaders knowing that just turning the technology on is not going to solve. So they're focused on, how do I do the job design differently? How do I do the role design? How do I help my people understand as the tasks that you do are impacted by things like AI? This is what it means for your career opportunity to grow. I think the second thing that I've been really excited to actually see some of the narrative change around is a real focus on entry-level roles and early career talent, because early, I think in the AI artificial intelligence narrative over the last 2 years is, and something we dig into our Trends Report around this experience gap, companies are saying, hey, this entry-level role needs 2 to 5 years experience.
Does it?
Well, does it,
Does
right?
it?
And how are you going to get those 2 to 5 years experience for an entry-level role? So as we then really unpack that...
How am I going to get this job without getting the initial experience?
Yeah, exactly. So I've been really excited to see and hear people doubling down on, no, we need new and different ways to get early career talent into the organization, because if you don't make that investment now, then a few years from now, you're missing out on a pipeline of your next generation leaders.
I mean, that's like the old thing you see over LinkedIn and everything too. It says like 2 to 3 years experience for an entry level job. You're like, well, how the hell am I supposed to get the experience if you're not gonna give it to me there?
Yep.
And that kind of leads to the next point where I wanted to get into is skill based hiring. For anyone out there who's not following along, how do we define skill based hiring, and shouldn't everything be skill based hiring? Like in theory, like shouldn't that we're hiring based on skill? What does it mean?
Yeah. So skills-based hiring today means understanding here's a role, and that role does a set of activities, and these are the skills needed to do those activities, right? And that's where the broad AI conversation has really gotten to, is you actually have to understand, if I implement this AI solution, what are the tasks that it impacts? Based on those task impacts, what does that mean to the skills needed to do the work, right? Because I might not need to use these skills anymore, therefore I might need these skills, right? So as you think about skills-based hiring and our trend around this experience gap, one of the things that we are doubling down on is that organizations need to reevaluate hiring criteria.
Yes.
Right? Does a year or 2 or 3 years of experience actually matter?
Do you really need that skill?
Or I've had this skill or this capability, or I've done this type of activity, and therefore if I come in, what then is the developmental program that an organization is investing in that can help me continue to evolve those skills and apply them to the context of the organization itself?
Well, like, right. Does that candidate have the aptitude and attitude to do what you're looking for versus such a binary evaluation of it's not exactly this, they can't do it, right?
Right.
Like you can't have it. And I think, keep me straight here, I mean, you're looking at it from the advisory high level standpoint. I mean, you look at organizations of all different sizes. Some companies aren't equipped for that because of the current market. They're not resourced, they're not staffed. And to be frank, the recruiters in the hiring team, they're just not trained to be skill-based evaluators.
I would say,
It's cool,
Adam,
but
this is something where I've spoken to a number of CHROs, and this is the broad narrative in the market around, is HR strategic? Does HR have a seat at the table? In many companies, it does, because there has been budget and funding to the function, right? In other companies, the investments have been made elsewhere, right? And so if you think about where do organizations go now, having the right workforce to deliver on your business outcomes, that's a business imperative. Number one topic for the C-suite and board of directors, human capital, right?
I mean, that's
Where
your
am I getting
business.
the talent from? How am I developing it? This is a business thing.
And it's also a competitive standpoint.
Absolutely.
I mean, let's take a classic example. Coke and Pepsi, or we can even think during the talent wars, 10 years ago, where literally companies like Facebook were hiring people so other companies couldn't get them, and these people were doing nothing. Imagine you got that lucky. God, son of a bitch! Hey, Adam, we're gonna give you a lot of money, and then you're gonna do absolutely nothing. I mean, we're far away from that now, but that was real. But not every company has that resource or the ability to do that. I mean, it puts us in. It's a different time. It's a different market. How are companies doing more with less? Because right now it's a volume problem. Right now we have so many good folks out of work, generally speaking, when we're looking from a broad stroke. So much good talent out there. You know who's suffering? It's those B and C level players. They're gonna be out of work a long time. What are you seeing? What are you feeling? What are you hearing?
Yeah, I think, Adam, this gets into the combination of this experience gap challenge and where we actually have seen and explored this trend for organizations into revisiting the employer value proposition and really bringing an AI first employer value proposition forward. What does that mean? That means actually explicitly saying, hey, for candidates, why you should come here is because we're going to help you understand how to use AI to do work differently. And for our employees who are here now, we're going to help you as AI impacts certain tasks, as the skills that are needed to do your role are change and evolve, what that means for us to deploy you into new and different career paths, right? And so for organizations, you look down the line, what's going to be that most important is the increasing competition for talent in the door.
Right.
And winning through the ability to take talent who knows your business, knows your culture, knows how to get work done within your organization, keeping those folks and redeploying them in new and different ways than organizations are potentially doing today.
Does purpose really matter anymore for candidates, or are we at a place right now where this is generally transactional and people need to put food on the table?
I think that purpose will always matter for candidates. And I think as we, from a Deloitte perspective, in our 2024 trends report, our 2025 trends report, in our Gen Z and Millennial survey that'll come out in May, you always see that purpose is something that people really care about.
Generational agnostic.
Generational agnostic, right?
It still matters. The work matters.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's such an interesting point too, and you kind of see that funny meme out there, like where it's either, why do you want to work for the company? And I think the response is like, because I need to eat, right? Like you need to do those things. And I find it interesting because as an agency recruiter myself, I really understand, because if you're a company, you want somebody who's going to want to work for your company. Now, I'm not telling you to drink the Kool-Aid. If I'm the founder, you're never going to have as much passion as me, but I do want you to have a genuine interest in what I'm doing here. And it's always a tricky slope, because there's some cases right now where candidates are like, I could do that job, kind of get what you're doing there, but why do I have to drink all that Kool-Aid? How do you stay in touch? Because you're macro trends. How do you stay in touch with the practitioners? How do you stay in touch with what's happening in the trenches with folks like myself that are on the front lines?
Yeah. So
the real shit that we see, man.
Yeah.
It's a dark and dirty place, my friend. I don't wish that upon anybody. You can't unsee what I've seen.
Yeah. So Adam, I'll say there's me personally, and then Deloitte broadly, right? So I personally, right, I spend a majority of my time with CHROs, with HR leaders, where I am leading teams that are helping solve business problems, right? So the role that I'm in is not just a fly high macro trends, stay above the fray, right? So my mix that I bring to any conversation is, here's what I'm working with clients today on business problems. And here's where I have the opportunity to engage with research, to engage with voices out in the market who are studying some of the macro trends and kind of bring those two together, right? And for the way in which Deloitte does our 2025 Human Capital Trends Report or any of our research, it's all grounded in stories of who is doing what today, right? It is not a theoretical application of a trend. It is, here's something that we're seeing. Here's the business challenge tied to that situation. And here are stories to bring it to life for what organizations are actually doing to tackle that today.
Interesting. I mean, I'd be remiss if we didn't talk about AI, and there's a good and bad and the ugly out there. And let's tap into the trends reports that are either recently out or some of the stuff that you're working on. Is there a trend that's right in front of our damn face, good, bad, or ugly, that we're just missing or we have blinders on? Is it moving us too fast or taking us away from something? Give it some alpha, man.
Yeah. I Adam, in the last year, have been really digging into a demographic trend that I think is going to become that much more important over the years ahead. It'll build on this experience gap. It'll build on redefining the role of the manager. It'll build on some of these things. And that is the workforce at large, 10, 15 years, is going to continue to shrink in many geographies because the baby boomers, 4 years out from hitting retirement age, successive generations, generally smaller, and there will be a point where there are just fewer humans in the workforce. That will just be a mathematical fact, right? And so what are those things that we should begin to do now to embrace new and different ways that allow the humans who are in the workforce to have that much more of an outsized impact, right? Like that's a very different thing to be solving for relative to, have I found the right use case for this AI application in the finance function today?
I feel that we need to continue this conversation on a much deeper level. I definitely want to have you back on either my show or the HR Morning Show, because I think there's a lot to unpack here. And I want to do it systematically. I want to talk micro and macro trends.
Yep.
When's the next report coming out?
The full report comes out on Monday. We've started Human Capital Trends Week now. We're starting to begin some videos and infographics out to start teasing some folks with some of that information. But the full report will be available for folks to dig into on Monday.
Let's give some optimism out there for the job market. I know it's bleak and grim. It's really tough out there for job seekers. But is there some light? Is there going to be a change? Is hiring going to open up? Are there going to be jobs? We all had this hope that whatever you voted for, listen, this guy Trump is in there now. He's going to stimulate the economy. Like, what are you saying?
Yeah, I've read data that actually says there are more than enough jobs in the world for all of the people who are here today.
But the people don't want to do those jobs.
One of the challenges is the mismatch, right?
Yeah, they don't want to do those jobs.
But so some of that, you look at certain parts of the world who are phenomenal at branding trades and vocational, right? There are other parts of the world that need to start to rebrand some of that. Yesterday, I was on a panel here at Transform around adapting to a Gen Z-led future. And someone put out the challenge statement of, how do we help kids of college-educated parents celebrate becoming an electrician? Because that could be a six-figure job,
Exactly.
right? So some of that is, how do we expose new sources of jobs to the talent to close that mismatch?
Awesome. We have so much to talk about. Maybe we'll do it over poker next time. Leave us with one word of intention. First of all, congratulations on the new role here.
Thank you.
Give us a word of intention for yourself in this new role.
A word of
What do you want to
intention for
manifest for
myself.
yourself?
What do I want to manifest for myself? Collaboration.
That's a good one out there.
Yep.
Kyle, thank you so much for joining me. Where can folks find you? Where can they connect? Where can they learn more?
Yep. Feel free to reach out on LinkedIn. You can find me in the greater Los Angeles area. But I
Playing
also
soccer with
am,
Edelman or repping soccer with
I'm broadly. You can also find me around some of the event circuit throughout the year, where I'm here representing Deloitte and engaging with other voices in the market.
Well, we want to thank our friends over at Deloitte. This has been really cool. I want to keep this conversation going. I want to get deeper. I want to be, when we're less distracted by all the noise around us here, and really focus in on some of these trends where we could take maybe a couple of trends and really extrapolate it.
Awesome.
And get into the reasons why behind them. Kyle, thank you so much for joining us here. Safe travels back to LA.
Thank you. Take care, everyone.
Awesome. And this has been Transform. And thank you to our friends over at Greenhouse for having us here. This has been a wrap. Transform 2025 podcast out.